Tara, Michelle, welcome back into the back room.
Great to be back with you, Andy.
Great to be here. Thank you for having us.
So lots to talk about. I want to just start off with a macro question before we get into some of the news of the day. So we just passed Trump's first 200 days in office. What are your biggest takeaways, your biggest concerns from this period?
I'll let Michelle go first.
How much time do you have?
I know.
Honestly, I mean, the list is very, 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 very long. I honestly, the biggest takeaway I think is the 30,000-foot view of like, people need to, I don't know when everyone's going to wake up because things are as bad as a fire truck. Sorry, goes past my window. Things are as bad as we told everyone they were going to be, if not worse. A lack of imagination is a very, very dangerous thing. You have to take people at their word. You have to take people at what they're writing down in books called Project 2025. And for something just coming off of the anniversary, 105th anniversary of the 19th Amendment being ratified this week, it is now a mainstream talking point that they want to repeal the 19th Amendment. And that is one of the single greatest indicators of where we are and where we are going. And everyone needs to look at their own lives and the people around them and think, what's coming next? And what can I do to stand between, Donald Trump and the Constitution? And because I listen, we're in trouble. We're in trouble.
Yes. As Whoopi Goldberg famously said, you in danger, girl.
Yeah.
In goes. That is America. That is our democracy. And I think I agree with everything Michelle said. And to add to that, I think the swiftness and intensity in which Donald Trump and his MAGA collaborators are dismantling our institutions and disregarding our constitutional norms is something that a lot of Americans either are in denial about or are okay with. And I find it hard to believe that there are more Americans who are okay with this than aren't, which is to Michelle's point that there needs to be a little more fire in the belly coming from leaders of the opposition about this. There's a couple, and I'm glad to see that finally, thank God, but not enough. So
not nearly enough.
Yeah.
Well, we know what's interesting on that note. Trump has been solidly underwater now for 2 solid months on his core issues like the economy, inflation, immigration. He's underwater with independents, Hispanics. He's losing the manosphere bros. So what are we to make of that?
Well, I think that the fact that there isn't enough reporting coverage on that, because when Joe Biden, God forbid, right, stumbled over a word and the inflation number, which came down from 9% to under 3% at one point, if it went up, ticked up just a little bit, forget it. It was economic calamity. It was Joe Biden's failing. He's not doing anything for weeks. Front page of the newspapers. Donald Trump has been underwater, to your point, Andy, since about May, after the quote Liberation Day bullshit with the tariffs. And people are going, wait a minute, what's happening? Wait, you're doing what? You're destabilizing the global marketplace for what reason? What are we doing? And it's going to cost us money? What do you mean the other countries don't pay? We actually pay? It's a tax on us? Wait, what do you mean prices aren't going down? They're all going up. Like, people started to wake up because it impacted them selfishly. Unfortunately, people don't change until they pay enough of a price. So meanwhile, those of us who have been warning about this are going, we try to tell you, but okay, now it affects you. So now you're starting to wake up. Okay, good. What are you going to do about it? Well, Donald Trump has been flailing since June, since he had the fight with his former BFF, Elon Musk, who was just ravaging through our federal government with reckless abandon. And he threw the bomb about Epstein. And Donald Trump has not been able to recover since. And instead, he has been doing all kinds of crazy things to distract from that, whether it was the ICE raids, the National Guard troops in LA, the National Guard troops now in Washington, D.C., terrorizing people, the thrown hastily together diplomatic, whatever you want to call this, with Putin and Ukraine and all these other crazy things to distract from everything you just said, that he's underwater, that his economic policies are unpopular, that the Epstein files are still a thing and people care. That's why he's losing the manosphere. And he's, the mainstream media can't stay focused on it because it's all the shiny objects. And
the liberal media was the devil's greatest trick, because there is a conspiracy in news, and it's to protect Republicans. And it just happened over and over and over and over again.
Because they own the media now. Look who owns the media. Look who owns them. They have a vested interest in it.
So what I try to do, and what I try to do on the podcast, is to try to stay positive and optimistic, which isn't always an easy thing to do. So here's my philosophy. It's like, we're never going to get like a news flash that says, breaking news, MAGA gone, right?
Right.
We're never going to get, a news flash that says Donald Trump approval, 5%. So it's about like taking the wins, I guess, where and when we can get them, trying to look through all the, the barrage of insanity that you mentioned, Tara, that's coming at us. I'm convinced there's a job at the White House with the title of Director of Flood the Zone, right? Like there's somebody who gets up in the morning and goes, okay, here's what I'm going to do today.
Well, that was Steve Bannon's role in the first administration. And I believe that's Stephen Miller's job now.
Right. So I feel like when you look at these numbers and how he's underwater and how, Joe Rogan and Andrew Schultz, and he's losing certain parts of his coalition, like, are we winning on some level? Like, and do we need to just like stop the presses and go, okay, we lost here, here, and here, but we're winning over here. We're winning over here. We want people to, know what's going on. Are they knowing what's going on? Because maybe that's why he's underwater. Like, it's easy to just be like, oh my God, we are so fucked, right? It's easy to just like, go in a room with a bottle of Jack Daniels and say it's over. But, you mentioned DC. Okay, so he's federalized the police. He sent in the Guard, but he also tried to appoint an emergency police commissioner and was smacked down by the courts with that. And Pam Bondi put her tail between her legs and said, okay, fine. And so it's bad. Don't get me wrong. But in order for, I think, all of us to sort of stay a little positive, if we can, is to say, as bad as it is, it could be worse and it will get better. But we have to fight. We have to, stay energized and engaged and vote. So I don't know. That's where I come from. It's like, are we ignoring the obvious in front of us because we're all so crazy upset about all the shit that we're seeing?
Well, I think there's no guarantee that it will get better because no one's coming to save us, but we are the ones that we have all been waiting for. And I think that's where that converges, right? Is that, we are the ones. And so it's about, at least for me, because like Tara and I know you too, but like waiting in this stuff all day, every day, 365 days a year. And it's about compartmentalizing and prioritizing. What can I do? What resources do I have in this moment? What can I do as a citizen? Where can I send $5? Where can I like and share? And Tara and I were sitting in a wonderful, powerful, brilliant group of women last night at a very legendary woman's apartment, and we were all talking about how, for instance, MAGA and the right have been flooding the zone in terms of communications and building that infrastructure out for years, if not decades, and how far behind we are. And so some of that is just, getting online and starting a podcast. Like, okay, you don't have any money, whatever, just do it anyways. Grab your laptop and a friend and go online and just do something to help the algorithm. Do something, because we're so far behind in the algorithm too. And so I say all that to say is just, there are little things that we can all do. And I agree with you that we have to look and see where we still have power. We still manage to, save the day in some ways. And we have to stay focused on those things, but also not allow that to allow us to go to sleep, because we're looking at the race in Virginia, we're looking at the governor's race in New Jersey, and it's like I think people are asleep or banking on the unpopularity of Donald Trump, that it's gonna bring them across the finish line. And it's like, unless you get up and you do work and you take risks and you keep moving forward, I just, we're gonna keep losing. And so, yeah, to your point, like, yeah, we have to look at the wins and see how we're winning and what people are doing. I say Gavin Newsom, right? I mean, he's fighting with fire with fire. That's what people want. That is what is inspiring people to be motivated. And this is, I mean, Democrats should be taking a page out of his book.
I'll give a couple of other examples of where we can say there's good news. Piggybacking off the Gavin Newsom thing, the governor's races in New York and New Jersey and Virginia are really important barometers going into the midterms. The midterms have already started, first of all, and people need to understand that. But the most immediate happening in Jersey and Virginia, this gives people an opportunity to look at what's going on, what are people responding to in those states, because they will set the tone going into the midterms where, all of Congress is up and there's a bunch of other governor's races like in New York that coming up. Like 2026 is really important. That's why Donald Trump is flipping out about mail-in balloting now and going after. That's why this push in Texas with the Texas redistricting mid-decade, which is virtually unheard of unless there's like some kind of emergency, which there's not, other than Donald Trump is scared that Republicans are going to lose power in 2026. So that shows you that there is power in voting. There's power still at the ballot box, which is why they're coming for the process.
Right.
And looking at what the Texas Democrats have done, fighting back against Governor Abbott, it may not stop it, but they at least are going down swinging, where that inspires people that they don't care even if you lose, you are inspired that, well, maybe we dust ourselves off and next time we can win. So what do we do differently so that we can win? Or we just don't like, we don't like this feeling of losing. So we're going to do what it takes to make sure we don't anymore. That's what MAGA did. That's what Republicans did. They reconstituted and figured out how to manipulate our own system so they couldn't lose anymore. Now, we're saying do it the honest way, but you have to get out there and fight. Newsom is doing that. He's saying, okay, we're going to do it democratically, though, because they're afraid of the democratic process and the people. So I'm going to take it to my people of California. Is it an uphill battle? Yes, but it doesn't matter. It gives people something. We could do this. And if the people of California reject it, that's okay. At least you tried and you're out there fighting fire with fire. So we're seeing some wins in the courts, right? You use the example, Andy, of what happened in Washington. Small victory, but a victory nonetheless. We're seeing what courts are doing as another line of defense here. And that's, again, elections matter. They have consequences because a lot of these people get to choose who's going to be their judges. And that needs to be more emphasized going into the midterms too, that why the Senate matters. Also, what Gavin Newsom is doing shows that governors are the first line of defense. The states are the first line of defense against
absolutely.
So pay attention to what's going on in your states. And that gives people something else to look to. And you see more and more people standing up to it. So I think that there are examples here of people to grasp onto hope that citizen righteous anger changes things. That's how we change things. That's changed, American policy and in trajectories and other times in history. And it's going to take that again. So let's do it.
Yeah. Michelle, you mentioned before about the liberal media, and I couldn't agree more. Yeah. The thing with Newsom, we always hear that Democrats show up to a gunfight with a knife. I don't even think they show up with a knife. I think they show up.
It's like a cheese stick.
No, not even that. They show up with a moral center. That's what they show up with,
earnestness.
Right? Yes. So here we have a guy who I think is doing a brilliant job trolling Trump for a lot of reasons. And I just wrote something on Substack today, 5 reasons why what he's doing is really important. But the liberal media, you watch them and they were like, I mean, what is the point of it? Like, I guess, he's gunning for 28 and they completely miss the fight fire with fire thing because that's their fucking default. They can't get out of their way. Forget the fact that he's holding up a mirror saying, You got a problem with what I'm doing? This dude's in the White House. He's running the country. So if I'm crazy or I'm inappropriate, what is he, right? I mean, Dana Perino on Fox was like, "That's so inappropriate." It's for
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
Fox can't. They're like,
for a
we're
governor.
like, guys, you're telling us you're admitting it yourself, you idiot.
Yeah.
The joke is
Right.
on you.
But plus, he's also showing us that this is still America and it's still a democracy, and you can mock your president and not end up in a gulag somewhere in El Salvador or worse,
Well,
right?
Well, what he was threatening Gavin Newsom, right, with arrest or something. He's like, "Come and get me."
Yes.
Yeah. Who's
And people
doing
are
that?
like, hell yes. They're
Look,
like,
yeah.
freaking do it.
I like the crop of alleged presidential candidates for 28. I think they're all good, fine, experienced people. The Pritzkers, the Whitmers and the Shapiros and the Cooper and Bashir. Like, there's so many of them, but where are they? I don't mean just like once in a while you're doing something, or hey, Texas Democrats, come stay in my state. I'm talking about fighting.
Right.
He is Newsom is the only one doing it, and I believe that the rules have changed. Trump changed the rules of campaigning, of who runs. You can't run like you're running against Reagan in the 80s anymore. Those days are gone.
And you can't show up a year before and be like,
"That's right,
la la la." No, it's immediate. I mean, look at what after January 6th, after Donald Trump lost. Despite everything, he was having rallies immediately.
Yep.
And, the networks weren't covering it. But, what I did it for a living at the time, I had to watch all of them. And they were on Right Side Broadcast News. I think it's Brian Glenn's network, which is Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend. I watched almost all of them. And let me tell you what, they were rambling, they were crazy, but people were showing up. And this is why when people were calling him the former guy, I was like, no, he's not. He's coming back. Oh, he's not going to be the nominee. Yes, he is. And he didn't stop for 4 years. And that is what we have to be doing. Like, this is to your point. Yeah. Like we're not running against Reagan anymore. Like, this is a new world with new mediums, and like cable news, they look around wondering why the hell their medium's dying. They're dying.
That's right.
Because they're not up with the times.
Right. You have to play the game you're in.
Yeah.
You can't play the game that you thought you knew, or the game of yesteryear. And because, like you said, Andy, the rules have changed, and you either adjust and adapt or you die and lose.
Right.
And so that's what we're facing. And it's been a challenge to get the Democratic
That's so polite.
Yes. Get the Democratic establishment to understand that. I mean, but another thing that people can look to as a positive is that many independent creators like yourself, like us, like others who are not asking for permission anymore and saying, okay, well, we'll go do it ourselves. And we're building community now from the ground up. And eventually the Democratic establishment will have to catch up. And so
you think they can?
There is no more asking for permission.
But are they capable?
Well, I don't know. It's either you adapt or you die. And in politics, dying is losing. So when you lose power, then maybe, it should be the wake-up call. And, the more people hold up a mirror to the establishment and say, listen, if you can't keep up, maybe it's time to try something else, and let the people usher in the new era of leaders who understand how to play this game and who are in shape, political shape, to take it on. Because that's what it's going to take. Because the other side, MAGA, never stops.
No,
and committed wins.
And to your point about
line.
Yeah, absolutely, Tara. Tara's 1,000% right. And to her point about community, I mean, look at CPAC. How long CPAC has been going on? Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's thing for young people. Like this, these are places and times for people to come together and create even more community, create more content on the ground. Share that with their millions of people. They all get drunk and like do whatever with each other. I won't go there. But these things are crazy. And and they happen several times a year. And it's like, we don't have anything like that.
Nope.
Yeah. And why don't we?
I know.
It's not complicated. Here, watch this. We're going to break news here. DPAC
Right. Right.
Like
Right.
I'm no fucking genius, okay? And I came up with that in 4 seconds. Okay. So okay,
Well,
George Soros, if you're out there, or Melinda Gates, where put up a couple of $1 billion.
Yeah.
Let's start a new news
I mean,
network.
listen,
Let's start a DPAC. Like, why aren't we doing it?
you joke about it, but
Where's
that's
our
the
Koch
case.
brothers? Where's
Right.
our
Yeah.
Koch brothers?
That's correct. And that is, I think, a challenge to the Democratic moneyed class that is upset about what happened with the election last year. And I get it, right? There was a lot of money poured into the election. It was misapplied. Okay. It wasn't used well. And so people said, well, forget it. We're closing our checkbooks and we're going to move to Europe now. That is not the answer. Could you imagine if we had approached World War II that way? We'd all be speaking German. This is not the American. We don't just give up and say, well, forget it now, because that's, again, the most committed wins, the most organized wins.
Yes.
And the other side recognized that they had to financially fund and support.
Yeah, that's a huge part.
And now look at what they have. They've built an infrastructure
Yes.
that is kicking the ass of the Democratic side. And it's like, hello, this is not just like traditional politics anymore. We're literally fighting to protect our democratic way of life in America. And we're starting behind the 8 ball because so many people decided to take their financial ball and go home. And you just can't do that. But in spite of that, there are those, the citizen cavalry has to come and do our part, because there is power in numbers and there is power in the righteous anger of the American people. And when you see people marching in the streets in Washington to say, hell no, get your fascist ass.
Oh, yeah.
We don't want
I've really enjoyed that.
You know,
the
like,
booing
that
and the
is,
yelling.
that kind of stuff is it's contagious. Courage is contagious. And so that's why we just can't be discouraged when, if the top down isn't going to get it, then we will do it ourselves, because I don't want to be part of the generation that lost democracy. Do you? I don't.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and Andy, to your point about wins, sometimes I have to think to myself, things can't be that bad. Elise Stefanik got booed not once, but twice.
Right.
By her own constituents this past week, and it sparked joy. And
Yeah,
so,
and
you know what? We have to celebrate the small things.
Yeah.
And there's that congresswoman in Wyoming where there are like literally no Democrats. So like the claim of like the place was filled with Democrats, like that doesn't fly because there's no Democrats in Wyoming. But you guys have been all over this 19th Amendment thing. So I want to ask you about that in our last couple of minutes here. What is happening here? Like, are we really going back to the days of the Handmaid's Tale?
Yes.
Like, are these people? This is coming through the church.
Yes. So we talk about this often, like on our shows and stuff, about like the Venn diagram, right, of all these like techno-fascists and the racists and the evangelicals, and then you got the Opus Dei people, and they all have one thing in common, and that is to end democracy. Who ends up standing in the end? We don't know. But these fundamental the evangelical, white nationalist, Christian, patriarchal people. So Doug Wilson, right? It's his name, I think, right?
One of them.
One of them. Pete Hegseth's pastor, who said that women should not be voting.
By the way, big man of faith, Pete Hegseth.
Oh, please.
Big follower of Jesus's scripture.
Big follower of
3
Jesus.
marriages, 7 kids.
Just
assault. Okay.
Yeah, good for you, Pete. And does a great pull up, as we have all seen on the internets.
Good hair though. Could give Gavin Newsom a
that.
run for his money.
That's literally the only one. So we put together just a short little video 11 months ago of all of these pastors and Christian nationalists, men, going on their podcast talking amongst themselves about how women should not have the right to vote, and that there should be a family vote, and it's 1 vote per household, and the men are the ones who go into the voting booth and make that vote. And it's, Joel Webbin is one of them, who's honestly one of the most extreme. He said that women have the brains of children, and she doesn't have to worry about making a vote or really having a job or being in any position of power, whether it be in government or in the church, and that those decisions can be made by their father or their brother or, you know, the men in their lives that love them. Um,
And Charlie Kirk is also, you know, someone who
oh yeah.
started this,
You know, birth control makes us
indoctrinating,
ugly. I mean, it's
right,
just,
and
it's all
indoctrinating the younger generation
the
of
children, young girls.
women into believing this whole trad wife trend that's going on. And you know, the mainstream media is telling these stories, and it was actually Pamela Brown who did this package on Doug Wilson deciding to bring this Christian nationalist church of his to Washington D.C. to be closer to the epicenter of political power. And espousing this stuff that Michelle's talking about against women and trying to subjugate us and take our rights away. Very Handmaid's Tale, very Gilead, very Commander type. And for those who watch, and Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of Defense, retweeted this garbage and said amen, and has yet to be held to account for why he did that. This is the same guy that is trying to erase women in the military and our history and claiming it's DEI. And yet this is okay. Nobody's questioning that. So, you know, the Seneca Project was named after the Seneca Falls Convention of 1848, which began the women's rights movement in this country. It took 72 years to get the right to vote passed through the 19th Amendment. And then that only gave, in theory, it gave all women the right to vote, but it was several decades later before Black women had equal rights to vote in this country everywhere. So this was so to even think that right would be under threat, again, goes to the lack of imagination being dangerous, because a lot of people thought that Roe v. Wade would be overturned and women would lose the right to healthcare decisions.
No, it's settled law. It's settled law.
Right.
I'm like, is it? I mean, and that's the thing. And if they're coming for the right to vote, I mean, our fundamental like right to vote, it hasn't, well, how long has it been? 50 years since women have been able to have checking accounts, own property, you know, have lines of credit without, you know, there's women who write into us who say, you know, I'm 70 years old. I remember being in the department store with my mother. She was applying for a credit card for the store. They wouldn't give it to her because my father wasn't there to sign for her. Like these things did not happen very long ago. And it wouldn't take much to roll that back. All you have to do is look at the map, the red and blue of like states that have trigger laws to undo marriage equality, the states that had trigger laws to undo a woman's right to her own body. I mean, it's this stuff
already in place. When you say trigger laws, they were already in place, just waiting for Roe v. Wade to be overturned, and the laws were triggered in those states. Back to states and governors being first line of defense.
Yeah, and listen, we want to keep talking about this, and because we realize that people think that we're being hysterical, but they're telling us like they always do. And you know, the lack of imagination is a very, very dangerous thing. And if you can't imagine that they would do, you have to imagine, because if you can imagine it, they're already thinking about it. They're already planning it. So you have to be 10 steps ahead. And, you know, I remember I was speaking on a panel. It was like a day or two before they called the election in 2020. So I was speaking on a Zoom panel at Syracuse University, which is where I went to school. And somebody in the audience asked me, do you think that even if Joe Biden wins, that they'll overturn Roe v. Wade? And I said, yes. And
people thought you were crazy.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, of course they are. And listen, it was still shocking and you know, devastating, but they're coming for all of it.
Yes.
And
they wrote it down.
They wrote it down.
5 is the playbook. They wrote it down. They were so arrogant and so confident in that, in their ideology and their potential success of implementing it, that they wrote it down. Everything that we're seeing take place was written down 4 years ago. They started writing this down. Well, more before that, because people, I mean, this has been.
They had online classes.
Yeah,
you could sign up for them.
Many years, but to actually put it into a document started right after Trump lost in 2020, and they reconstituted and came back, and now they're checking off all the boxes. So, you know, for us at the Seneca Project, our whole mission is to inform and galvanize people to take that fear right, and that outrage into action. And we do it through our content and through our videos and our ads and placing them, because people don't fight for things that they don't understand the value of. So you have to start with hearts and minds. Everybody has a different role. There's people who organize on the ground or get people to the polls, but people have to feel connected to what they're fighting for. And that's where we come in. And that's why our content at the Seneca Project is so important. Because that's why Donald Trump and MAGA uses social media, uses the internet.
And they've gotten a lot better at it.
Right. And meeting people where they are on their phones and digitally. The old ways of placing ads and content is dead, because people don't really watch cable news anymore, or some do, but not the way they watch on their phones. And they've understood the algorithms and things like that. So even for us as a very small organization, trying to scale up so that we can be a part of getting into that algorithm to meet people where they are, so they fully are invested in why they should fight. And it starts with that. And that's why we started the Seneca Project for targeting women. And now we've expanded our mission to being it's democracy first, because everything else, if we lose that, everything else doesn't matter. So it's protecting and preserving and fighting for our democracy so that we can continue to fight and protect women's rights and our autonomy and our place here. Because they go for women because in authoritarian states, women are seen as enemies of the state.
Yeah.
They have to subjugate us, because if we don't have equal rights, they can't get away with what they're trying to do.
And the voting booth for us is the last place. It's the last private place that women have to make private decisions about their lives.
Which is
it
why
is
they're
the
coming
last place.
Yeah, last place for all of us.
Doctor's office, it's not anymore.
Yeah, it's for all of us, and that's why they're attacking as many of these levers of the election process as possible. Guys, you do a great job over there at the Seneca Project. Keep fighting the good fight. It's really important. And
Same to you.
Come back and talk with us again.
Thank you,
so much,
Andy.
Andy.
All righty, take care.